The stars were quiet in the Valoran cluster. They had been quiet for 10,000 years. Every galactic map marked this region as dead space. No trade routes passed through it. No species claimed it. The great empires of the galaxy simply pretended it did not exist. Admiral Kim Taiho stood on the bridge of the U-Een and Eternal Dawn and watched the empty blackness through the viewing window. His ship was humanity's pride. It was the first deep space carrier ever built by human hands. 3 kilometers long, carrying 5,000 crew members, and armed with enough weapons to destroy a small moon. But out here, in this forgotten corner of the universe, the Eternal Dawn felt very small. "Admiral, we should turn back," said Lieutenant Choi Mino. He was young, barely 30 years old, but his mind was sharp. He had studied every known region of space. "There is nothing here. The maps say this cluster has been empty for thousands of years." Taiho did not answer immediately. He was 53 years old. His hair was gray at the temples, and deep lines marked his face. He had served in the fleet for 30 years. He had seen things that young officers like Mino could not imagine. And right now, something in his gut told him to keep going. "The maps were made by others," Taiyi said slowly. "Perhaps they missed something." Before Minho could respond, a voice called out from across the bridge. "Admiral, I am picking up a signal." Communications Officer Park Sujin was hunched over her console. Her fingers moved quickly across the controls. She was small and quiet, the kind of person who disappeared in a crowd. But her ears were the sharpest in the fleet. If there was a signal hiding in the static of space, Sujin would find it. What kind of signal? Taiho asked, walking toward her station. "It is old," Sujin said. Her voice was confused. "Very old. The encoding pattern does not match any known species. But the message is clear. It is a distress beacon. Someone is asking for help." The bridge went silent. Everyone understood what this meant. Somewhere in this dead cluster, someone was alive. Someone had been calling for help for a very long time. And no one had answered. Taiho made his decision in 3 seconds. Set a course for the signal. Maximum speed. The Eternal Dawn moved through the darkness like a knife through water. Hours passed. The signal grew stronger. And then, finally, they saw it. "By all the stars," Mino whispered. The viewing window showed a field of death. Hundreds of ships floated in the void. Some were broken in half. Others were burned black by weapons fire. They were of different designs, different species, different ages. But they all shared one thing. They were all destroyed. In the center of this graveyard stood a station. It was ancient and damaged. Parts of it were missing. Lights flickered weakly along its surface. But it was alive, barely. "Life signs detected," reported Science Officer Yoon Yoonji. 47 beings. They are weak but alive. Taiho did not hesitate. "Prepare a boarding team. I will lead it myself." Captain Han Jun stepped forward. She was Taiho's second in command, a tall woman with sharp eyes and a calm voice. She had served with him for 15 years. She knew better than to argue when he used that tone. "I am coming with you," she said simply. 20 minutes later, Taiho and June walked through the dark corridors of the station. Their flashlights cut through the shadows. The walls were covered in strange writing. Old blood stained the floors. The air smelled like rust and fear. They found the survivors in a large chamber at the station's core. 47 beings huddled together in the dim light. They were insectoid creatures, with 6 limbs and large compound eyes. Their bodies were thin and fragile. Many were injured. All of them looked terrified. One of them stepped forward. It was old. Its shell was cracked and faded, but its eyes held intelligence and pain. "You came," it said in broken but understandable speech. After so long, someone finally came. I am Admiral Kim Tayo of the United Earth Navy, Tayo said. We received your distress signal. Who are you? What happened here? The old creature made a sound that might have been a laugh or a sob. I am Kavos. I am the elder of the Orin people. And what happened here? Kavos spread its thin arms wide, gesturing at the walls, the blood, the darkness. The harvest happened. In the hours that followed, Kavos told them everything. The Valoran cluster was not empty by accident. It was empty by design. Every 500 cycles, an empire called the Dominion returned to this region of space. They came in massive fleets. They came with weapons that could crack planets. And they came to kill. The Dominion did not conquer. They did not enslave. They simply harvested. They stripped worlds of resources. They exterminated all intelligent life. They left nothing behind but ash and silence. 12 species had once lived in the Valoran cluster. 12 civilizations had built cities and ships and dreams. The Dominion had destroyed them all. The Orin were the last survivors. 47 souls hiding in a broken station, waiting to die. They will return soon, Kavos said. His voice was empty. The cycle is almost complete. In a few weeks, the Dominion will come again. And this time, they will finish what they started. Taiho listened in silence. He thought about his crew. He thought about his family back on Earth. He thought about everything humanity had built over 300 years of space. Travel. And then he thought about 47 frightened beings who had waited 10,000 years for someone to help them. How strong is the Dominion? He asked. Kavos looked at him with confusion. Strong? They control 300 star systems. They have thousands of warships. They have destroyed civilizations older than your species. They are strong beyond your imagination. And how many ships does humanity have nearby? Your ship. Perhaps others. 40? 50 at most? Minho stepped forward, his face pale. Admiral, you cannot be serious. The mathematics are clear. We cannot win this fight. We should retreat and warn Earth. We should run? Taiho interrupted. His voice was quiet but hard. We should leave these people to die? We should let this Dominion continue killing for another 10,000 years? He turned to face his crew. Every one of them was watching him. He saw fear in their eyes. But he also saw something else. He saw the same fire that had driven humanity to leave Earth, to cross the stars, to reach for the impossible. No one was supposed to come here, Taiho said. No one was supposed to find the Orin. No one was supposed to learn about the Dominion. But we did. We are here. And I will not run. He looked at Kavos. The old Orin was trembling. Tell your people to rest, Taiho said. Tell them help has arrived. For the first time in 10,000 years, Kavos felt something he had forgotten existed. Hope. The message from Admiral Taiho reached Earth in 3 days. It traveled across thousands of light years, bouncing through relay stations and quantum links, until it arrived at Fleet Command in New Seoul. The words it carried would change human history forever. Fleet Commander Lee Yuna read the message 7 times. Each time, her heart grew heavier. She was 60 years old, a veteran of 3 wars and countless battles. She had seen death. She had ordered men and women to their graves. But she had never faced anything like this. The United Earth Council gathered within hours. 12 representatives from 12 regions of human space sat around a long table. Their faces were grim. On the screen before them, Admiral Taiho's report played in full detail. They saw the graveyard of ships. They saw the broken station. They saw the Orin survivors with their frightened eyes and thin bodies, and they heard about the Dominion. "This is madness," said Counselor Huang Songmin from the eastern colonies. He was a large man with a loud voice. "We cannot fight an empire that controls 300 systems. We have 47 warships. They have thousands. The math is simple. We will lose. Perhaps we should negotiate," suggested Counselor Bai Minji from the southern settlements. She was known for her careful thinking. "If the Dominion only wants resources, perhaps we can offer them something else. Perhaps we can make a deal." "You do not make deals with genocide," Yuna said quietly. Her voice cut through the noise like a blade. "The Dominion does not negotiate. They do not trade. They harvest. That is all they have ever done." The council fell silent. Lieutenant Choi Minho appeared on the screen. He had been working for 3 days without sleep, running every simulation he could think of. His eyes were red. His hands were shaking. But his mind was still sharp. "I have analyzed every possible scenario," he said. "Direct combat is suicide. Guerrilla tactics might buy us time, but not victory. Retreat is the only logical option. If we leave now, we can warn the rest of humanity. We can prepare. We can build more ships. In 50 years, maybe 100, we might be ready to face them. And the Orin?" Yuna asked. Minho paused. His jaw tightened. "They will die," he admitted. "But if we stay, we will die with them. And then there will be no one left to stop the Dominion from finding Earth." The logic was cold. The logic was perfect. The logic made Yuna want to scream. The vote was called. 9 counselors voted to retreat. 3 voted to stay. The decision was made. Humanity would run. Yuna was about to close the meeting when the communication screen flickered. A new transmission was coming in. It was from the Eternal Dawn. Captain Han Jun appeared on the screen. She was standing in the Orin station. Behind her, alien children huddled together in the darkness. Their large eyes reflected the camera light. They looked so small, so afraid. "Council members," June said. Her voice was steady but heavy with emotion. "I know you have made your decision. I know the numbers say we cannot win. But I want you to see something before you leave us here." She turned the camera slowly. The council watched in silence. They saw Orin mothers holding their children. They saw old ones with broken shells, waiting for death. They saw young ones who had never known anything but fear. And floating in the space outside the station windows, they saw the graves. Thousands of ships. Millions of bodies. The remains of 12 civilizations that had been erased from existence. "These people waited 10,000 years for help," June said. 10,000 years. And we are the first ones to answer. We are the only ones who came. She paused. Her eyes were wet, but her voice did not break. "The Dominion has killed billions. They will kill billions more. And someday, when they run out of easy prey, they will find Earth. They will find our children, our families, everything we have ever built." She stepped closer to the camera. "I am not asking you to be heroes. I am asking you one simple question. If not us, then who? If not now, then when?" The screen went dark. The council chamber was silent. Counselor Huang wiped his eyes. Counselor Bei stared at her hands. No one spoke. Then Yuna's communicator buzzed. A message from the Valoran cluster. Admiral Taiho was speaking to his fleet. "This is Admiral Kim Taiho. I have received the council's decision. I understand their reasoning, but I cannot follow their order. I will not leave these people to die. I am staying. If any captain wishes to join me, the choice is yours. I will not command you. I will only ask." 17 lights appeared on the tactical display. 17 ships broke formation and moved to stand beside the Eternal Dawn. Their captains spoke one by one. The soul's fury stands with you. Admiral, the Byzant shield stands with you. The Incheon star stands with you. One by one, almost half the fleet chose to stay. They chose to die. They chose to fight. Counselor Wang slammed his fist on the table. They are throwing their lives away. This is mutiny. No, Una said softly. This is humanity. She stood up slowly. Her bones ached. Her heart was heavy. But her mind was clear. I have served this fleet for 40 years, she said. I have followed orders my entire life. But some orders are wrong. Some orders we must refuse. She looked at the counselors one by one. You voted to retreat. That is your right. But I am the fleet commander. And I am giving a new order. She took a deep breath. All remaining ships will proceed to the Valoran cluster. We will reinforce Admiral Taiho. We will fight the Dominion. This is suicide. Wang shouted. Perhaps, Una agreed. But there are things worse than death. Living as cowards is one of them. She activated the fleet-wide channel. Her voice echoed across every human ship in range. This is Fleet Commander Lee Una. I am ordering all vessels to the Valoran cluster. We go to war. She paused and smiled. It was a sad smile, but also proud. If we are going to be damned, we will be damned together. Humanity does not abandon its friends. Move out. The fleet moved as one. 47 ships. 500,000 souls. They flew toward almost certain death. They flew toward an enemy that had never been defeated, but they flew together. On the Oran station, Kavos watched the human ships approach on the old sensor screen. More ships than he had ever seen in his long life. All coming to help his people. He did not understand humans. He did not know why they would die for strangers. But as he watched their fleet gather in the darkness of space, he understood one thing clearly. The galaxy had never seen anything like them, and neither had the Dominion. Lord Veth stood on the command deck of the Dominion harvester ship Endless, hunger and watched the stars pass by. He was ancient by any species measure. His gray skin was thick with scars. His 4 eyes had witnessed the death of 97 civilizations. Each harvest had been the same. Arrive, destroy, collect, leave. This harvest would be no different. My lord, his second officer reported, we are approaching the Valoran cluster. Sensors show the usual debris fields. The Oran survivors should be easy to locate. Good, Veth said. His voice was like gravel scraping metal. Begin standard harvest protocols. I want this finished within 10 cycles. The Supreme Harvester expects efficiency. The Dominion Vanguard consisted of 50 harvester vessels. Each one was massive, built for stripping planets of minerals and organic matter. They were not warships in the traditional sense. They did not need to be. No species in the Valoran cluster had ever fought back. No species had ever survived long enough to try. Veth had done this 97 times. He expected nothing different today. He was wrong. 3 weeks earlier, Admiral Taiho had gathered his officers in the war room of the Eternal Dawn. The holographic display showed the Valoran cluster in detail. Red markers indicated the expected Dominion approach routes. Blue markers showed the human fleet positions. The blue markers looked very small. We cannot win a direct fight, Taiho said. Their ships are bigger. Their weapons are stronger. Their numbers are greater. If we meet them head-on, we die in the first hour. Then what do we do? Asked Captain June. Taiho smiled. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had found an answer he did not like but would use anyway. We do not fight fair. Chief Engineer Beek Sunwoo stepped forward. He was a short man with thick arms and oil-stained hands. He had spent his life building things. Now he would build something new. The Dominion expects no resistance, Sunwoo explained. Their harvester ships are designed for collection, not combat. They have weapons, yes, but they are slow to aim and slower to fire. They rely on size and fear. He pulled up a schematic on the display. It showed a human cargo hauler, the kind used for transporting minerals between colonies. We have 23 cargo haulers in the fleet. They are old and worthless in battle, but I can turn them into something else. He pressed a button, and the schematic changed. The hauler's cargo bay was now filled with explosives, fuel cells, and metal fragments. Rams flying bombs. Each one carries enough destructive power to crack a harvester in half. Pilot Oh Hyung stood up. She was young, only 25, with short black hair and steady hands. She had been flying since she was 16. I will lead the squadron, she said. Her voice was calm. Too calm. Ho looked at her carefully. You understand what this means? The rams are not designed to return. This is a one-way flight. I understand, Admiral. Hyung met his eyes without flinching. Someone has to fly them. It might as well be us. 20 pilots volunteered. 20 young men and women who knew they would not come back. They spent 3 weeks training, practicing, saying goodbye to friends and family through recorded messages that would only be sent after the battle. When the Dominion vanguard arrived, they were ready. Lord Veth first noticed something wrong when his sensors detected movement in the debris field. Small objects were approaching at high speed. His officer identified them as primitive cargo vessels. Pathetic, Veth muttered. They send cargo ships against us? Destroy them. The harvester weapons fired. 3 of the rams exploded in bright flashes of light. But the others kept coming. They were too small, too fast, too many. My lord, they are not slowing down. They are accelerating toward us. Veth felt something he had not felt in centuries. Confusion. What are they doing? He got his answer 5 seconds later. Hyung's ram struck the harvester, ship-consuming flame directly in its engine section. The explosion was enormous. Fire and metal sprayed across space. The consuming flame broke in half and began to drift, dead. All around the vanguard, the same scene repeated. Ram after ram slammed into Dominion ships. The harvesters were too slow to dodge. Their weapons could not track targets so small and fast. In 3 minutes, 12 rams found their targets. 12 harvester ships died. This is Pilot Oh Hyung. Her voice crackled over the communication channel. Target destroyed. Proceeding to secondary target. She had survived the first impact. Her ram was damaged, but still flying. She aimed for another harvester, one of the largest in the fleet. Tell my mother I love her, she said quietly. Then her ship hit the harvester's reactor core. The explosion was so bright that sensors across the cluster recorded it. When the chaos ended, Lord Veth looked at the damage reports with disbelief. 19 of his 50 ships were destroyed or crippled. 12 human pilots were dead, but they had taken nearly 40% of his vanguard with them. No species had ever done this. No species had ever dared. His communication array crackled. An incoming transmission. He accepted it with shaking hands. Admiral Taiho's face appeared on his screen. The human looked tired but calm. Behind him, the bridge of the eternal dawn hummed with activity. Lord Veth, Taiho said, I hope I am pronouncing that correctly. I am Admiral Kim Taiho of the United Earth Navy. I wanted to introduce myself. Veth's 4 eyes narrowed with rage. You have made a terrible mistake, human. You have killed Dominion soldiers. The Supreme Harvester will hear of this. He will send the full armada. Your species will be erased from existence. Perhaps, Taiho agreed. But today, You lost 19 ships to a species you never heard of before. Today, your harvesters burned in the void. Today, you learned something important. And what is that? Taiho leaned forward. His eyes were hard as steel. Humanity bites back. Leave this cluster, Lord Veth. Go home and tell your masters what happened here. Tell them the Valoran cluster is no longer a harvesting ground. It is a graveyard waiting for visitors. He smiled coldly. And the next time you come, bring more ships. You will need them. The transmission ended. Lord Veth stood in silence for a long moment. Then he gave an order he had never given in 97 harvests. Retreat. Fall back and send a message to the Supreme Harvester. Tell him we have encountered something unexpected. Tell him to send the Armada. He looked at the burning remains of his ships floating in the darkness. Tell him these humans must be destroyed. All of them. The remaining Dominion ships turned and fled. They left behind the wreckage of 19 vessels and the bodies of thousands of crew members. On the Eternal Dawn, the crew did not celebrate. They mourned their dead pilots. They prepared for what was coming. They knew this was only the beginning, but they had won the first battle. Against all odds, against all logic, they had won. Taiho stood alone on the observation deck and looked at the stars. Somewhere out there, the full Dominion Armada was preparing to come. Thousands of ships, millions of soldiers. An empire that had never lost a war dot, and facing them would be 47 human ships, and a handful of survivors. But they had 6 weeks to prepare. 6 weeks to find allies. 6 weeks to become something the Dominion had never faced before. Taiho intended to use every second. The galaxy remembered the Dominion. It remembered the screams of dying worlds. It remembered the silence that followed. And in the darkest corners of space, hidden in places the Dominion had overlooked, survivors remembered 2. Admiral Taiho learned this from Kavos on the 3rd day after the battle. The Orin were not alone, the old alien said. His voice was tired, but his eyes held a spark that had not been there before. Long ago we had allies, other species who fought beside us against the harvest. They were scattered when we fell, broken, but some survived. They hide still, waiting. Waiting for what? Taiho asked. Kavos looked at him with something like wonder. For someone brave enough to fight back. For someone like you. Within hours, Captain Han Jun was aboard a fast scout ship with Kavos as her guide. They traveled to the forgotten places of the cluster, the dead moons and empty asteroid fields where life was not supposed to exist. They went looking for ghosts. They found something else entirely. The Kelani lived inside asteroids. They were crystalline beings, their bodies made of living mineral that shifted and glowed with inner light. They had survived the harvest by retreating deep into the rocks, hiding in tunnels too small for Dominion scanners to detect. For 10,000 years, they had waited in darkness that their leader was called simply the Voice. It spoke through vibrations in the stone, a sound like singing glass. We know of the humans, the Voice said. We heard your battle through the rocks. We felt the Dominion ships die. We need your help, June said. The Dominion Armada is coming. We cannot win alone. Why should we help? We have survived by hiding. If we fight, we die. June thought carefully about her answer. She had never negotiated with an alien species before. She did not know their values or their fears. But she knew one thing that all survivors shared. You have not survived, she said gently. You have existed. There is a difference. You hide in darkness, afraid to move, afraid to live. Is that what your ancestors wanted? Is that what you want for your children? The Voice was silent for a long moment. The crystals around them pulsed with soft light. What do you need from us? It finally asked. Your minerals. Your knowledge of this cluster. and your courage. The Kelani agreed to help. They offered rare crystals that could amplify energy weapons threefold. It was technology the Dominion had never seen, because the Kelani had never shared it with anyone. Until now, the Marishi were harder to find. They lived in the liquid oceans of a frozen moon, swimming in waters warmed by volcanic vents deep below the ice. They were massive creatures, each one larger than a human shuttle, with skin that could heal from almost any wound. When June's ship broke through the ice and descended into their waters, the Moreshi surrounded her with obvious hostility. Their leader, a scarred female named Kalara, spoke in a voice that boomed through the water. "Humans, we have heard of your kind. Young, foolish, you come to our world uninvited. I come to ask for alliance," June said through her suit's translator. "The Dominion returns. We fight them. We need your help." Kalara laughed. It was not a pleasant sound. "The Dominion killed half my species. My parents. My children. What makes you think you can succeed where we failed?" "Because we already have." June played the recording of the first battle on her suit's display. Kalara watched in silence as human rams struck Dominion ships. She watched 19 harvesters burn. "Impossible," Kalara whispered. "Not impossible. Just expensive." June's voice was heavy. "We lost good people in that fight. We will lose more. But we hurt them. We made them afraid. And with your help, we can hurt them again." The Moreshi offered their biological armor, a living substance that could be grafted onto ship hulls. It healed damage on its own. It made ships harder to kill. The Alliance grew. The Terek were engineers. Once they had built the greatest ships in the cluster. Then the Dominion came, and their homeworld was turned to ash. The survivors scattered across space, taking their knowledge with them, hiding it from anyone who might misuse it. Their elder, a thin being named Kos, met with Taiho himself aboard the Eternal Dawn. "You want our designs," Kos said. "It was not a question." "I want your partnership," Taiho corrected. "We have weapons and courage. You have knowledge and skill. Together, we might have a chance." "A chance to die gloriously, you mean?" Taiho shook his head. "A chance to win. I do not want glory, Elder Kos. I want survival. For my people and for yours." Kos studied him with ancient eyes. "Why do you care about us?" "The Orin, the Kelani, the Marishi, we are strangers to you. You owe us nothing." "My grandmother used to tell me stories," Taiho said quietly. "Stories about a time when human nations hated each other. They fought wars over land and resources and pride. Then something bigger threatened them all, and they learned that survival matters more than old hatreds." He spread his hands. "I cannot promise victory, but I can promise this. We will not run. We will not leave you to face this alone. Whatever happens, we face it together." The Terek shared their designs. Within days, human engineers were working alongside alien engineers, rebuilding the fleet into something new. But the alliance was fragile. Old wounds ran deep. The Kelani did not trust the Moreshi, who had raided their asteroid homes centuries ago. The Terek looked down on the others as primitive. The Orin were too traumatized to do more than watch. The breaking point came on the 4th week. A fight started in the Eternal Dawn's cargo bay. A Moreshi soldier insulted a Kelani engineer. Words became shouts. Shouts became violence. By the time security arrived, 3 beings were injured, and the entire alliance was ready to collapse. Corporal Shin Do-yun was the one who stopped it. He was a ground soldier, 28 years old, with no rank worth mentioning and no authority over aliens. But he had grown up in a village where different families had feuded for generations. He knew something about old hatreds. He walked into the middle of the argument and started talking. Not shouting, just talking. "My grandmother was born in a country that no longer exists," he said. "Her parents hated the people across the river. Those people hated them back. They had hated each other for 500 years. Do you know what ended it?" No one answered, but no one was fighting anymore. "Invasion," Doyan continued. "A bigger enemy came, one that wanted to kill everyone, not just one side. Suddenly, the old hatreds did not matter anymore. Suddenly, the only thing that mattered was survival." He looked at the Marashi, then the Kelani, then all the others. "You can hate each other tomorrow. You can fight your old wars when this is over. But today, right now, there is only one enemy. The Dominion is coming to kill all of us. Your children and mine. Your future and mine." He pointed out the window, at the stars where the Armada would soon appear. "Out there is death. In here is the only chance any of us have. So ask yourselves, what matters more? Your pride or your survival?" The cargo bay was silent. Slowly, the Marashi soldier extended a massive hand toward the Kelani engineer. The Kelani hesitated, then touched it with a crystalline limb. It was not friendship, but it was enough. The alliance held. Weapons specialist Yoon Yoonji worked without sleep for 2 weeks. She integrated Kelani crystals into human weapons. She grafted Marashi armor onto human hulls. She installed Terek engines that made ships faster and stronger. When she was finished, the Eternal Dawn was something new, something the galaxy had never seen. A ship carrying the knowledge of 4 species, built by the cooperation of beings who had never worked together before. "It is ugly," June said, looking at the modified hull. "It is beautiful," Tayo replied. "It is hope." 2 days later, the sensors detected the Dominion Armada approaching. 800 ships, the largest fleet the cluster had ever seen. The Alliance gathered to face them. Humans, Orin, Kelani, Marashi, and Terek. Different species, different histories, different fears. But standing together, for the first time in 10,000 years, the Dominion would not face scattered, frightened prey. They would face something far more dangerous. They would face unity. Supreme, Harvester Malkin had ruled the Dominion for 300 years. In that time, he had overseen the destruction of 41 species and the harvest of countless worlds. He had never known defeat. He had never even considered it possible. Until now. The reports from Lord Veth had disturbed him. A young species called humans had ambushed the Vanguard fleet. They had destroyed 19 harvester ships. They had used suicide tactics and crude weapons, fighting like animals backed into a corner. Malkin had decided to come personally. He would crush these humans. He would make their death a message to any species that dared to resist. And he would broadcast their extinction across the galaxy as a reminder of Dominion power. His armada was magnificent. 800 warships filled the void, like a cloud of metal and fire. Destroyers, carriers, dreadnoughts, the combined might of an empire that had conquered for 10,000 years. At the center of the formation flew his flagship, the Eternal Silence, a vessel so large it had its own gravity. Supreme Harvester, his tactical officer reported, "We are approaching the Valoran cluster. Sensors are detecting enemy vessels. How many?" The officer paused. When he spoke again, his voice held confusion. "Approximately 70 ships, Supreme Harvester. But their configurations are strange. They do not match any known design." Malkin smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "It does not matter what they look like. They will burn all the same. Prepare for battle. I want this finished within the hour." The Armada moved forward. Hungry and confident, they did not know they were flying into a trap. Admiral Tayo stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dawn and watched the Dominion fleet approach. The numbers were terrifying. 800 ships against 70. The mathematics said humanity should surrender. The mathematics said they should already be dead. But mathematics did not account for desperation. It did not account for courage. And it did not account for the allies standing beside them. "All ships report ready," Captain June announced. Her voice was calm but tight. "Kalani crystal weapons are charged. Morashi armor is active. Taric engines are running at maximum efficiency." Tai-Ho nodded. He looked around the bridge at his crew. Park Sujin at communications, Choi Minho at tactical, Yoon Yoonji monitoring the integrated alien systems. They were all afraid. He could see it in their eyes. But they were not running. "Open a channel to all Alliance ships," he ordered. His voice echoed across every vessel in the fleet. "This is Admiral Kim Tai-Ho. In a few minutes, we will engage the largest Dominion armada ever assembled. Many of us will not survive this battle. I will not lie to you about that. But I want you to understand something." He paused, gathering his thoughts. 10,000 years ago, the Dominion came to this cluster and killed without mercy. They thought they were invincible. They thought no one would ever fight back. Today, we prove them wrong. Today, humans and Orin and Kalani and Moreshi and Taric stand together. Today, we show the galaxy that tyranny can be resisted. He straightened his uniform. "Whatever happens in the next hour, remember this. We did not run. We did not kneel. History will remember that when darkness came, we chose to be the light. All ships, engage." The battle began. The first phase was chaos. Dominion destroyers surged forward, weapons blazing. The Alliance fleet scattered, using their superior speed to avoid the initial assault. Kalani crystal beams sliced through Dominion hulls. Moreshi armor absorbed hits that should have been fatal, but the Dominion kept coming. For every ship damaged, 10 more took its place. The Alliance fleet was pushed back, losing ground with every minute. "We cannot hold this position," Minho shouted over the noise of explosions. "They are overwhelming us." "Fall back to secondary formation," Tai-Ho ordered. "Draw them into the asteroid field." The retreat was planned. The asteroids had been seeded with Kalani explosives, hidden among the rocks like waiting predators. When the Dominion ships pursued, the asteroids erupted in fire. 30 enemy vessels died in the trap, but it was not enough. Supreme Harvester Malkin watched the battle from his command throne and felt only mild annoyance. The enemy was clever, yes. They were resourceful. But cleverness could not overcome raw power. His fleet was still advancing. His victory was still certain. "Concentrate fire on their largest vessel," he ordered. "Destroy their flagship, and their morale will break." 100 Dominion ships turned their weapons toward the Eternal Dawn. The bombardment was relentless. Even with Moreshi armor, the human carrier could not survive such focused assault. "Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, Yoonji reported. "We are losing containment in the engine section." Tai-Ho gripped his command chair as the ship shook from another impact. Blood ran down his forehead from a gash caused by flying debris. But he refused to leave the bridge. "All hands, brace for impact. Redirect all power to forward shields." The Eternal Dawn was dying. Everyone knew it. But they kept fighting, and Lieutenant No Ji-Woo spoke. She was 23 years old, a navigator, the youngest officer on the bridge. She had been quiet throughout the battle, running calculations on her console while chaos raged around her. "Admiral," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. "I have found something." "What is it, Lieutenant?" "The Dominion flagship, the Eternal Silence. Its shields are concentrated forward, toward our fleet. The rear is vulnerable. If a ship could jump through hyperspace directly into their formation. She trailed off. Everyone understood what she was suggesting. A hyperspace jump inside an enemy formation was theoretical suicide. The calculations were nearly impossible. The margin for error was zero. But if it worked, if a ship emerged inside the flagship's defenses. I can do it, June said suddenly. She had been listening on the command channel. Her ship, the Soul's Fury, was damaged but still functional. My ship is fast enough. If Ji-Woo gives me the coordinates, I can make the jump. June, no. Tai-Ho's voice cracked. There must be another way. There is not. You know there is not. June's voice was gentle but firm. The Soul's Fury is already dying. Half my crew is already gone. Let us make our death mean something. Silence fell across the channel. On every ship, officers and crew stopped to listen. Tai-Ho, June continued, we have served together for 15 years. You are the finest officer I have ever known. It has been an honor. She switched to a fleet-wide channel. This is Captain Han Jun of the Soul's Fury. I am making a final approach on the Dominion flagship. To all Alliance forces, it has been a privilege to fight beside you. To the people of Earth, to my family, please know that I do this gladly. Her voice softened. Humanity does not run. Humanity does not kneel. Tell the galaxy that we bite back. The Soul's Fury turned toward the Dominion flagship. Its engines flared to maximum. Lieutenant Ji-Woo transmitted the hyperspace coordinates with shaking hands. Coordinates received, June confirmed. Beginning jump sequence. The small ship accelerated, faster and faster, until it seemed to stretch across space itself. Then it vanished into hyperspace. 1 second later, it reappeared directly inside the eternal silence. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The Dominion flagship, the pride of their empire, the symbol of their invincibility, tore itself apart in a cascade of fire and light. Supreme Harvester Malkin died without even understanding what had happened, and with him died the Dominion's command structure. The remaining enemy ships fell into chaos. Without their leader, without their flagship, they did not know what to do. Some continued fighting. Others began to retreat. The unified fleet became a mob. All ships advance, Tai-Ho ordered. His voice was rough with grief, but steady with purpose. Push them back. Do not let them recover. The Alliance surged forward. Kalani weapons carved through confused enemy formations. Moreishi vessels rammed damaged opponents. Human ships fought with a fury that bordered on madness. Within 2 hours, the Dominion armada was broken. 300 ships destroyed. 200 captured. The rest fled into hyperspace, running from a cluster they had once harvested without fear. For the first time in 10,000 years, the harvest had been denied. The aftermath was quiet. Tai-Ho stood alone on the observation deck of the Eternal Dawn. The ship was barely functional. Hundreds of his crew were dead. Captain June was gone. The victory they had won came at a terrible price, but they had won. Kavos found him there hours later. The old Orin moved slowly, his body weak but his spirit stronger than it had been in centuries. Admiral, he said, I have lived for 200 years. I watched my people die. I watched hope die. I never believed I would see this day. Tai-Ho did not turn from the window. We lost many good people. June, Hyung, so many others. Sometimes I wonder if the cost was too high. There is no cost too high for freedom, Kava said firmly. Your friend, the captain, she understood this. She gave her life so that others might live. That is not tragedy. That is sacrifice. And we will honor her forever. Tai-Ho finally turned. His eyes were wet, but his voice was steady. What happens now? Kavo smiled. It was a strange expression on his alien face, but somehow warm. Now we rebuild. The Dominion will return someday. They are too proud, too cruel to accept this defeat. But when they come, they will not find scattered prey. They will find us, united, ready. He placed a thin hand on Taiho's shoulder. You called this place a graveyard. You were wrong. From today, it is something else. The cradle of the free, the place where an alliance was born that will change the galaxy forever. Across the cluster, the news spread. Ships carried the recordings of the battle to distant worlds. Species who had cowered in fear for millennia watched humans and their allies stand against the unbeatable enemy and win. And in the dark corners of Dominion space, whispers began. Whispers of rebellion. Whispers of hope. Whispers of a young species called humanity that had arrived where no one expected and declared war against an empire. The Dominion had made one fatal mistake. They had assumed no one would fight back. They had assumed fear would keep the galaxy silent. They had assumed the harvest would continue forever. They never imagined humanity would arrive, and the universe would never be the same.